If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you I had everything a man could want. A good job, a small but cozy house on the edge of town, and a wife who made every tough day worth coming home to. Allison and I had been together for 5 years, married for 2. When our daughter, Emma, was born, I thought it cemented everything, the love, the trust, the purpose. Watching Allison hold our baby for the first time, I remember thinking, this is it. I made it. This is my family. For a while, it really was perfect. The sleepless nights didn't bother me much. I'd stumble to the crib half awake, bottle in hand, while Allison slept, her hair spilling over the pillow like a halo. She'd mumble a soft, thank you, and roll over, and I'd just smile. That image, her and Emma, kept me going through the exhaustion. But somewhere around the 3-month mark, things started to shift. Allison became distant. Not cold, exactly, just distracted. She'd stare at her phone longer than usual, her thumb hovering before replying. I'd catch her smiling at messages she wouldn't show me. When I'd ask, she'd brush it off. Just talking to Megan, she'd say. Megan was her friend from college, or so I thought. She also started taking extra errands. At first it was harmless, groceries, pharmacy runs, quick Target trips. Then they turned into 2-hour disappearances in the middle of the day. Every time, she'd come back cheerful, humming to herself, like a weight had lifted off her. I tried not to assume the worst. We just had a baby. Maybe she needed space, or maybe she was overwhelmed. God knows postpartum life isn't easy. So I told myself to relax, to stop reading into things. Then one night, something happened that changed everything. It was around 2 a.m. Emma had started fussing, so I dragged myself out of bed to feed her. The baby monitor, a fancy Wi-Fi model I'd bought before she was born, crackled softly beside the crib. It had a small screen and 2-way audio, so I could talk to her through my phone if I was in another room. That night, while I rocked Emma, I heard it, faint at first, almost like static. Then voices. I froze. It sounded like talking. Muffled, but definitely human voices. A woman laughing. A man saying something I couldn't quite catch. I looked around, no one else was in the nursery. The sound wasn't coming from outside either. It was coming from the monitor itself. I turned the volume down to make sure I wasn't imagining it. The voices got quieter. I turned it back up, louder again. My heart started racing. I thought maybe it was interference from a neighbor's monitor. Those things sometimes pick up crossed signals. But as I leaned closer, my blood ran cold. The woman's voice, the one laughing, was Allison's. I would have bet my life on it. I'd recognize that laugh anywhere. And then the man's voice said, clear as day, don't worry, he won't find out. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. I turned the monitor off. Stood there in the dark, holding Emma against my shoulder, feeling her tiny breaths on my neck, while my own breathing grew ragged. I told myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe the monitor had recorded something old, some stray conversation from before. Maybe it was a neighbor with a similar voice. Maybe my mind was making patterns out of noise because I was tired. But deep down, I already knew. The next morning, I told Allison the monitor had acted up during the night. She laughed lightly and said, those things always glitch. Remember the last one? It used to beep randomly. Except this wasn't random. And it wasn't a glitch. That day at work, I couldn't focus. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected another notification, something, anything to explain it. I checked the monitor's app and found out it stored audio logs automatically. I opened the most recent one. The playback started with Emma crying, then silence, then whispering. And then Allison's voice again. You should go before he gets home. I nearly dropped the phone. When I got home that night, I watched her like a stranger. Every movement, every glance, every smile. She was warm, cheerful, and completely normal. She made dinner, kissed my cheek, and asked how work was. It was like nothing had happened. I smiled back, played along, and tucked Emma into her crib like always. But as soon as Allison went to shower, I took the monitor from the nursery and hid it in my desk drawer. I connected it to my laptop and saved the recordings. Then I downloaded a screen recording app and set it to capture live feed every time there was motion in the house. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of the baby, because of what I'd heard. Something inside me had cracked open. The next day, I told her I'd be home late because of a meeting. But I left the monitor running, recording everything. That evening, when I finally pressed play, my hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. There was the sound of the front door opening. Her footsteps. Then a man's voice again, faint, but real. He said her name. She laughed. And in that moment, my whole world collapsed quietly, like a house of cards that had been leaning too long. The next few days were torture. I'd leave for work pretending everything was normal, but every second away from home gnawed at me. My mind kept replaying those voices, her laugh, that man's calm tone, the sentence that ruined everything. I couldn't concentrate. My coffee went cold on my desk every morning. I'd open the same email 10 times and still not read it. My coworkers noticed, but no one asked. What could I say? Hey, guys, I think my wife is cheating and I caught her through a baby monitor. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach turned. I'd half expect another motion alert from the monitor. And when there wasn't one, I'd start wondering if she had turned it off, or if she knew I was watching. By Thursday, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to test her. I told her I had to work late and would probably sleep at my friend's place since it was closer to the office. She nodded, barely looking up from her phone. That tiny reaction told me more than any words could. I left the house at 6 p.m. but parked down the street instead of driving off. From there, I could see our front windows. The lights went on in the living room. I waited. 10 minutes. 20. Then a car pulled up, dark gray sedan. Not familiar. A man stepped out, maybe mid-30s, dressed casually. He walked right up to the door. She didn't even hesitate to open it. I took a photo of the license plate. My hands were trembling so bad the picture came out blurry. I didn't storm in. Not yet. I needed to know more than just that. I needed the full picture, proof she couldn't twist or explain away. The next day, I pretended nothing had happened. She was in a good mood, humming while making breakfast, talking about maybe visiting her mom over the weekend. Her smile felt fake. Like something she wore for appearances. That night, while she slept, I downloaded every motion alert from the baby monitor app. There were clips almost every day at around 1 p.m., the exact time I'd be at the office. I played one. It showed Allison walking through the living room with someone behind her, only their shoulder visible at the edge of the frame. She looked different. Lighter. Almost glowing. I sat there in the dark, watching it loop, feeling my chest tighten with every second. The next day, I decided to take it further. I bought a small hidden camera, one that looked like a smoke detector, and installed it on the living room ceiling while she was out. It synced with my phone, silent, undetectable. Then I waited. Friday afternoon, I left for work again and parked near the park entrance a block away. I watched the live feed. At 1:08 p.m., the front door opened. Same man. Same car. They talked for a few minutes. Then she led him toward the hallway. The baby was napping in her crib, the monitor showed her tiny chest rising and falling peacefully while, in the next room, her mother was destroying everything we'd built. When the man leaned in to kiss Allison, I turned the feed off. I couldn't watch. I just sat there in my car, fists gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I wanted to run inside, to scream, to demand an explanation, but I didn't. Because deep down, I already knew there wasn't one. Instead, I focused on the one thing I still had control over, proof. That night, I called an old friend of mine, a cop. I told him I needed to run a plate for personal reasons. He hesitated but eventually agreed. When he called back, his voice had that low, careful tone cops use when something's off. His name's Dr. Paul Reynolds, he said. Lives on Hawthorne Drive. No criminal record, but he's a doctor. You okay, man? A doctor. I felt sick. Because the name sounded familiar. When Emma was born, our pediatrician was a Dr. Reynolds. A polite, soft-spoken man who told us not to worry about the colic. The same man who smiled at Allison every appointment a little too warmly. The same man whose number was saved in her phone as Dr. P. I'd seen it once before, but I never thought anything of it. Now, it felt like a punch to the gut. I stayed up until morning watching the footage again and again, analyzing every movement, every word. The way she touched her hair when she laughed. The way he brushed his fingers over hers like it was routine. I realized something chilling, this wasn't new. It had been going on for weeks, maybe months. And then I noticed something even worse. In the footage, when he walked in, he used a key. She didn't hand it to him. He already had one. That detail shattered me. It meant she hadn't just been sneaking around, she'd given him access to our home. To our baby's room. I barely noticed when dawn crept through the blinds. Allison stirred in bed beside me, stretching, yawning, completely unaware that her entire world was about to collapse. I watched her for a moment, the woman I'd loved, the woman I'd promised to protect, and I felt nothing but a cold, hollow ache. I wasn't ready to confront her yet. I wanted to understand why. Because as much as I hated her for what she'd done, a small, pathetic part of me still hoped there was a reason. Something I could fix. Something that made sense. But deep down, I already knew. Some things you don't come back from. After I confirmed who he was, I couldn't look at her the same. Every smile, every word, every little habit that once made her feel like home now felt staged, part of a script I didn't know I was in. I stopped trying to sleep in the same bed. I'd wait until she fell asleep, then move to the couch. She noticed, of course. She asked if everything was okay. I told her I was just tired, that work was stressing me out. In a way, that wasn't a lie. Work had become my excuse to be anywhere but near her. But inside, I was planning. I knew the smoke detector camera wasn't enough. I needed more than one angle, something that would show everything, no room for denial. So I bought 2 more devices, one disguised as a phone charger and another as a picture frame. I set the charger up in the hallway outlet, facing the living room, and replaced the frame above the mantel with the new one. Each night, when Allison went to bed, I'd sync them all to my laptop, checking for motion triggers. Most nights there was nothing. Until Tuesday. That afternoon, the motion log showed 2 entries, both at 1:03 and 1:07 p.m. I waited until she went out for a quick coffee run and opened the footage. It started innocently enough. She walked in from the kitchen, fixing her hair, glancing toward the front door. A few seconds later, he entered. Dr. Reynolds. In jeans and a t-shirt, carrying something in a paper bag. They talked for a while, too quietly to catch everything, but I caught enough to make my stomach churn. He called her Allie. Only I called her that. Then she said something like, "He's been acting weird lately. I think he knows." I paused the video right there. My ears were ringing. I felt every nerve in my body buzzing, like electricity under my skin. She knew. She knew I suspected, and she still let him into our house. Into my daughter's home. The camera in the hallway caught him picking Emma up from her crib. He held her, smiling. "Looks just like you," he said. That sentence broke me. Because Emma was mine. I'd seen her being born, I'd cut the cord, I'd held her before anyone else in this world. And yet there he was, holding my child like she belonged to him. I couldn't breathe. I closed the laptop and just sat there, staring at the blank screen until my reflection blurred. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Eventually, I decided to back up the footage. I copied every clip onto a flash drive and hid it under a loose floorboard in the closet. That night, I acted normal. Ate dinner, asked about her day, pretended to laugh at something on TV. I even kissed her goodnight, because in that moment, she was already gone. I was just saying goodbye to the ghost of the woman I loved. The next morning, I called my friend again, the cop. I told him I'd found out who the man was and that I was done pretending. He told me to stay calm, not to do anything stupid. "Get your evidence in order," he said. "Then decide what you want, confrontation or clean break." But I wasn't sure which I wanted. Part of me needed to look her in the eye and hear her say it. The other part wanted to vanish without a word and let her wonder when I'd found out. Still, I had one more thing to do. I wanted to know how long it had been going on. I started checking old texts on our shared iCloud. Most of her recent messages had been deleted, but I found backups. 3 months back, there were gaps in her call log, missing numbers, odd time stamps. One of them matched the clinic's phone number. Except it wasn't during office hours. Then I found an email, buried in her drafts, never sent, titled, "You can't keep asking me to do this." The message was blank, except for one line. "He's starting to notice. Please stop coming here." That was dated almost 2 months ago. Which meant she had tried to end it. But he didn't stop. That night, I set the cameras to record again, just in case. I told her I was meeting a client and left the house around 5 p.m. From the car, I watched the feed on my phone. She was pacing the living room, checking the window every few minutes. Then, just after 7, the door opened. Dr. Reynolds walked in without knocking. He locked the door behind him, a quiet, confident motion that made my skin crawl. I turned up the volume. "Allie," he said softly, "you look scared." "I told you not to come here," she whispered. "He's going to find out." "I don't care. He can't prove anything. You need me more than him." She shook her head, voice breaking. "This was a mistake. Please, just leave." He stepped closer, lowering his tone. "You don't mean that." When she flinched, something inside me snapped. I started the car, ready to drive straight home, to end this, one way or another. But then I froze again. If I showed up, I'd lose control. I'd do something I couldn't take back. And if she really was scared, barging in might make it worse. So I stayed. Watched. After a few tense minutes, she pushed him toward the door. He muttered something and left. For the first time, she didn't watch him go. She just sank to the floor and cried. I sat there in the car, staring at the tiny screen on my phone, feeling a mix of anger, confusion, and something like pity. I realized I didn't know the full story, not yet. Because for the first time since it all started, it didn't look like an affair. It looked like fear. The next morning, I couldn't look at her the same way, not because I hated her, but because I didn't know what she was anymore. Liar? Victim? Stranger? Maybe all three. I spent the day thinking, pacing the office like a ghost. My coworker asked if I was sick, I told him I hadn't been sleeping. That was true enough. I decided I couldn't keep pretending. That night, when she put Emma to bed, I told her we needed to talk. She looked up from the baby monitor, eyes instantly wary. "What's wrong?" she asked. I didn't sit down. Instead, I set my laptop on the table, opened the folder labeled Home Security, and hit play. The footage started, her opening the door, Dr. Reynolds stepping inside, their conversation. Her telling him to stop coming. His hand on her arm. Her pushing him away. Her face drained of color as she watched herself on screen. When it ended, I didn't say anything. I just stared at her. Finally, she whispered, "You've been recording me? That's your first reaction?" I said, my voice shaking. "Not that you're sorry? Not that you betrayed me? You're worried I recorded you." She pressed her palms against her eyes, trembling. "You don't understand." "Then make me understand," I snapped. "Because right now, all I see is you lying, sneaking around, and letting that man touch my daughter." She started crying, not dramatic sobs, but that quiet, broken sound that doesn't look fake. Still, I'd seen enough lies to not trust tears anymore. "He was blackmailing me," she said finally. I laughed. "You really think that's better?" "I'm serious," she said, voice rising. He had pictures. From the clinic. From after I gave birth. I didn't know he took them, but he said he could lose his license if anyone found out. Then he started showing up. At first it was small things. Compliments, texts. Then he said he'd ruin my reputation, tell you I was cheating if I didn't meet him. I swear I never. I slammed my hand on the table. "Stop lying, Allison." But she didn't flinch. She just looked at me, defeated, tired, and whispered, "You can believe whatever you want." I was wrong to hide it. But I was scared. And I didn't know how to tell you. Something about the way she said it, it didn't feel rehearsed. The trembling, the pacing, the desperation, none of it looked like guilt. It looked like fear. Still, I couldn't process it. I left the house that night with just my keys and my phone. I drove aimlessly for hours, parked near the old bridge, and watched the city lights blur in the river below. I thought about Emma. About the house. About every morning I'd kissed Allison goodbye without realizing who she'd become, or what she'd been living through. At dawn, I checked my phone. Missed calls. Messages. Then one from an unknown number. "This is Detective Lane with the County Police Department. Please call regarding Dr. Paul Reynolds." My stomach dropped. When I called, the detective's voice was serious but calm. "Mr. Carter? We've been investigating Dr. Reynolds for multiple counts of prescription fraud and patient exploitation. We found your wife's name among several others. She's not in trouble, quite the opposite. She might have been one of his victims." I gripped the steering wheel so hard it creaked. "Victims? What do you mean?" "We found hidden cameras in his home and office," he said. "He was recording women, patients, mostly. Using the footage to control them. Your wife came forward yesterday. She said she'd been scared to tell you. We arrested him this morning." I didn't say anything for a long time. Just listened to the hum on the line. Finally, the detective said softly, "She did the right thing, Mr. Carter. She helped us stop him." When I hung up, I just sat there in silence. The weight of the past weeks pressed down all at once, the suspicion, the anger, the heartbreak. And underneath it all, a hollow kind of relief. When I finally got home, Allison was on the couch, holding Emma in her arms. Her eyes were red, but she didn't look surprised to see me. "I told them everything," she said quietly. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner." I nodded. For a long time, neither of us said anything. She put Emma in my arms, and for the first time in weeks, the house felt still again, not peaceful, but empty. Like a place waiting for new meaning. Later, when she went to bed, I sat in the nursery, watching Emma sleep. The baby monitor buzzed softly on the nightstand, its blue light blinking. I thought about how it all started, that one sound through the speaker that shattered our life. The same device that exposed her lies had also saved her. I didn't forgive her that night. I don't think forgiveness comes that easily. But I understood her. And that, somehow, hurt even more. It's been 6 months since then. Dr. Reynolds is in jail. Allison and I are in therapy, not to fix what we had, but to figure out if there's anything left worth fixing. Sometimes I still wake up at night and check the monitor, half expecting to hear voices again. All I hear now is silence. But I've learned something about betrayal. It doesn't always start with lies. Sometimes it starts with fear. And sometimes, the person you thought destroyed your life, was the one trying to save it.